Some of you might be wondering the use of this telescope, Hubble Space Telescope, and it's been in orbit for decades now, and we've had the recent James Webb Telescope fully operational, doing all kinds of incredible analysis, not only in terms of visualizing faraway stars and galaxies pretty much to the region of the Big Bang space, also understanding various places, like for example analyzing exoplanets and atmospheres, taking different atmospheric conditions, and most importantly how with this enable us to fully understand the scope of various elements, compounds in our systems. And so moving into whether Hubble telescope is going to be a future or will there be some modifications, yes, we are going to be discussing about this, and this came from a publication from NASA and other sites about how NASA will be joining forces with SpaceX and looking for possibilities of what to do with Hubble's telescope in the future. And this future might be 5 years to maybe 10 years from now. Are we still going to use Hubble telescope for observing things in the visible spectrum? We will be able to combine those information alongside that of James Webb Telescope to fully understand the behavior of various systems in our galaxies or the universe. And so this conversation about this partnership at no cost from the government, and this is going to be interesting how this is going to enable us to fully see how this partnership can lead to future partnership commercially. One is, in this particular case, we have a situation where you're not going to be spending money from taxpayers, but rather the privatized company will be taking on this project in terms of how they will use their own resources to solve various problems. We've talked about a lot of things that people put in stuff in space, and some of this could be junk. And are we going to be putting junk in space? Or are we going to find ways to combat those things that are currently put in space due to future missions and past missions? Fascinatingly, it's going to be interesting because looking at this privatized company, in this case, knowing that SpaceX will be partnering with NASA on a 6-month analysis where they're going to study the Hubble Space Telescope alongside another property of SpaceX, which is called the Dragon Endeavour. And this is going to be interesting how this, which was put in 2021, is going to be taking information alongside that of the Hubble Space Telescope to see what are the possible outcomes that they can perform with Hubble Space Telescope. Just a little side note. What happened on April 24th, 2021 is that SpaceX crew that is using the Dragon Endeavour actually docked on the International Space Station. So this action, or maybe an alternative which is an automated version, maybe this will be a leadway into how this Endeavour will be used to perform an action on the Hubble Space Telescope. And what does that mean? This implies that both SpaceX and that of NASA will have to come to an agreement on what is the proper time after the 6-month analysis, and also next stage is for docking, and then finally is moving it into some particular position, which means is most likely going to be a deorbiting process where they're going to move the Hubble Space Telescope from its original position to another orbit position. Now, what are the outcomes of this? It's either you put it on a stable orbit, finding out what the sweet spot for the Hubble Space Telescope to function, or moving it back to Earth. And that'll be a fascinating action to see, not this year, not next year, but maybe 2024. So it's going to be interesting to follow this through in understanding how this process is going to be agreed on, what are the possible outcomes, and what is the best solution for Hubble Space Telescope. I feel that there should be some servicing, of course, of Hubble Space Telescope. I feel it has its place in terms of exploring the universe through various imagery in the visible spectrum, and most importantly, as we have seen, how combining two images, one coming from the Hubble Space Telescope and also from JWST telescope, will enable us to understand fully what are the chemical behaviors and interesting physical properties of different regions in space. Now, what are the benefits according to this article? One is that we know that this telescope has been operational since 1990s, and most importantly is above Earth around 335 miles, and it's quite fascinating to see that as it deorbits, which means that the orbit that it was at is not the same as it is currently. That impacts the functionality of Hubble Space Telescope. Therefore, to reboot it, that means that they have to reposition it to where it was or to somewhere a little bit more stable so that it increases its lifespan, because right now it's at a decay rate. So that means that as it is changing its current position to something less, which means sometimes a little bit away from where it's supposed to be stable, that means that the lifespan decreases. So to increase the lifespan, you have to put it back at its most stable orbit, and therefore that is the reason why they have to take this action and hope to let it to function as long as it can before finally it can be decommissioned. And the decommissioning phase means that they will stop to use Hubble Space Telescope and begin using or use more of JWST telescope for those observatory missions. So it's going to be interesting what they decide on that. It will be heartbreaking definitely for me to see the decommissioning of Hubble Space Telescope because of how much it was really dearly embraced by many, especially me, in terms of visually various memorable views of the universe, like the nebulas and galaxies. In addition, we are looking forward to the success of this interesting experiment that's going to happen with Hubble Space Telescope. If this is successful, this will actually open the door for stabilizing potentially James Webb Telescope that is currently at the L2 region in space. And if this particular space telescope is not in its stable orbit and is sliding away from the stable orbit region, then they can put in this particular endeavor or another upgraded version to travel there and perform that experiment. Now, the big question is this: if they are sending this out that far, is it going to be something that people will be willing to do, traveling that far away, or will it be automated like what they did with DART in terms of moving a specific asteroid without putting any person in there? Or will it be, in this case, sending humans there with this endeavor to do that mission? So these are questions that they have to put out here, and also the amount of money that will be put into it depends on whether it's going to be automated or in person. So it's going to be fascinating to see how these decisions that will be made will be impacted by not only the mission process but also the spending by these commercial companies that will be taking on this project, rather than having government agencies running this project. So overall, I hope you found this video interesting in terms of this partnership. Do you think that no, it's better for the government to do this particular project, or do you like, no, I think that there should be some nice symbiotic relationship between government agencies and that of space agencies that are privatized or commercially available to perform such heavy missions? And let's know your thoughts about this in the comment section down below. Otherwise, I hope to see you all soon. Stay smart as always and believe in yourselves.